All right, well, welcome to day 4 of LibreFest, and today is going to be all about editing your books and really getting into the fine details of getting through the process of writing, adding images, thinking about how to build that book out and flesh it out as much as possible. And we're going to start off with just a little bit of bookkeeping. Remember, we started just a few minutes later today because we had office hours in the other room and we had to transition over, but we're doing the introduction to basic editing. Then we'll only briefly touch on some things about accessibility and that basic editing thing, just to think about things ahead of time. And then we'll talk about accessibility in a little more details. And that'll be with Delmar, who's going to continue his conversation from earlier this week. And then we'll get into the more interactive stuff this afternoon after we take a break and you get some practice on your own to work on these in the evening. Not evening, evening for me, afternoon for you guys in California, with some basic kind of office hours-ish style work time later. So the learning objectives for my talk are going to be everyone should be able to edit a blank page to include some basic text, boxes, figures, and links. Authors should be able to explain how to use headings and subheadings and alt text. Everyone should be able to fork an existing transcluded page to edit it with care for attribution. And everyone should be able to get to necessary information in the construction guide so you can follow up later with some extra help. So to get started, I'm going to point out again that LibreTexts Academy has a quick start guide and a construction guide. And we'll be heavily referencing the construction guide today because I want to make sure that you know where to go to find that help when you need it later and find some good examples. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show you how to edit a page, and then we're going to see what that box looks like. So this is the demo we're going to be building and working on from today. When you click on edit, you get this box down here, which is where you edit your text, but you also have a page settings box. And this is where you edit the metadata for your page. So this is data about your page, not stuff that will show up on the page. This is where you can set it to be either a chapter or a section. That should get automatically set for you if you build your remixer properly. And you can have where is it? The license, this is where you would set it for your page. This is not a license that you're propagating from any other place you transcluded from. But this is where you get the license and then the version. I usually like to use this one. You can apply things to subpages. So you can do this once on the very top of your book and it will percolate all the way down, and then set your version to the most recent one. And again, that will populate through all of your subpages if you do it at the very top of your book. And so that's where you'll also get a summary, which we'll talk about that more because we do have that co-authoring tool that we can have AI help us write summaries later. This is page restriction private, so it's only for members of our group. You should have access to it, though. This is the book that we continued working on from yesterday. And then we have a toolbar here for doing all the editing that we want to do today or ever. And it looks pretty similar to any other WYSIWYG type Word document, Google Docs style editor. But there are some buttons here that we really should pay attention to, whether we should use them or not. And this is a picture that's straight out of the construction guide. So in the construction guide, there's this little image here. And I'm going to point out a few things. Obviously, we can save and cancel editing. Those are great. Undo, redo, headings, we'll talk about those a little bit. Normal formatting for text is good. Underlining, don't use that. For when you're writing for online versus in print, online underlines have a specific meaning. It means it's a hyperlink. It means people can click on it. So don't underline things when you're editing things in your book. You text color and highlight color, do not use those unless there's a very specific reason to do so. And actually, I can only think of one off the top of my head I've ever seen, which is a reasonable use. And I'm not even going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to say, don't use it. This is because as LibreTexts is a library that has a lot of functionality built in, we can print your books. We can get things into PDF documents. We have a style guide that comes with our covers that goes with all of our documents. So we have built all of our functionality to look good within the context of all the different ways that we can work with your book. So use the colors that come automatically with LibreTexts, use the box colors that come automatically. If things need to be highlighted, use the correct template to get to those. And don't do any of that formatting yourself, because in the end, it's just not going to look good to have your group of colors that you happen to like, but then sandwich within LibreText colors. So keep away from using any colors that you have and underlines. Justification, we usually use full. There's not hard and fast rule, but if you want to know the style guidelines, full justification is usually preferred. Indenting, again, this is a style preference, and if you just leave it to the defaults, it will look good, because we've designed our CSS, we've designed our books so that when they go through the print process, our style guide will take care of making those things look good. You can, of course, erase all formatting. So if you do copy in text from somewhere else, you can just highlight that text and click on delete formatting. So that's important if you're copying from another website or from your Canvas or Blackboard instance, and it comes in big and small and different colors and maybe a different font. We always recommend just highlight that and then remove all formatting that came from somewhere else. And then you can add your own formatting in. We're going to talk a lot about images and hyperlinks, so I'm going to talk about those later. We'll get to tables if we can. And then we have this boxes and the pull-down menus with additional tools. So these are the things that are kind of our built-in templating and formatting features that we'll use instead of choosing to make our own formats with bolding and highlighting and all those sorts of things. And we'll talk a little bit about those as well today. And then we'll talk these more interactive things will be this afternoon, but I want to point out the last one, which is the HTML, because I'm going to show at least one thing there. Okay, so some quick notes for thinking about accessibility from the very, very start. Delmar will delve into accessibility a lot more. But before you even begin to write, you should be aware of that HTML has some structure that you should just know before you begin that will help out to make things accessible down the line. If you want something bold or a heading or something like that, then you're going to want to use HTML's heading formatting, which is accessed by the toolbar going to H1, H2, if you've heard of those before. And the rule is for screen readers, you should have one H1 at the top and then H2s below that, then H3s underneath H2s, and then you can have H4s only underneath H3s. So in other words, never have an H4 under an H1. That's not good for accessibility. It doesn't help screen readers. So try to stick to that structure. And every page automatically comes with one H1 already. That is the heading for your page. So you'll notice that under headings, you don't have an option for an H1. You can only have that one H1 at the very top of the page. You have options for H2, 3, 4, and you'll see we even say H5, we use that for box legends. H6, we use that for intra-box headings, so within the boxes. So we've already decided, like, hey, just so you know, we're going to assume that those are how those are used. So you really have 3 levels of headings that you can play around with. Avoid just making things bold or italics to identify things. Try to stick within these, not because we're authoritarian, but because that is how you make your pages accessible for all students. So think about that structure beforehand. And then also images. Images should all have alt text. It defaults, as you can see here, to being just the title of the image. So there will be something automatically all the time. And that is usually not what you want. You usually want to actually write something there. Again, we do have AI co-author that can help put that text in there, and we'll demonstrate that later. But if you have an image that you're just throwing in there because it looks cute and it kind of calls something out, like maybe a stop sign to say, think about something or other, that's a decorative image. It's not informative to a student. So you can just delete the alt text completely and make it blank. And that will let the screen reader know that that's a decorative image. However, we do also encourage you not to do that. Avoid things that only some of your students can see. That's just kind of a good practice in general. So avoid them if possible, but that is how you can make them if you need to. All right, so that's a basic overview of what we're going to work on, and then we're going to work together. So I'm going to paste this link in the chat, or you know how to get to it by now. It's just the I didn't check the chat. Yeah, I'll make a quick note. do remember, and this is in response to Bob as well, I've already posted day 1 and 2 videos in the pages that they are associated with. So the Forge video is actually already on the Forge page at the bottom. That should make following along pretty easy. For today, we're going to jump into my talk on Introduction to Basic Editing. And down below, I have links there to the construction guide for advanced and basic editing. And I've also put in a slideshow that you can click through when you want to follow along. One piece of feedback I've gotten from a lot of people is it's hard to follow when it's just me showing, clicking. And this way you have kind of a screen capturing of where to click. So if you need to follow along later, you can go through that. So I'm going to actually walk through these steps again, but I wanted to show you how to use this. You can just click through, and as you go through, it'll show you exactly where to click. So if you start off the day on the summer 2025 LibreFest project, click on the remixer right there. Then click on there to see where you're working. Click there to see what I opened that up. So this is just a screen recording basically with slideshow by slideshow to see exactly what we're going to walk through to do today. All right. So I wanted to point that out, give you guys that so you have something that you can follow along with at your own pace as well. And I'm going to do some of the live chatting about that as I go through this as well. Okay. Sound good? All right. So I'm going to go to our project, which I always just go through the Launchpad because even though I work here and I know exactly where everything is, this is still the easiest way to navigate around. I go to our LibreFest 2025 course. I'm going to open the remixer and I'm going to add some pages to this. You can feel free to open your own remixer on your own book. You don't have to follow along in this book, but you can as well. So inside of here, I'm going to go ahead and make a new chapter. So I'm going to click on the top of my book, open that, move this to being my second chapter. Inside of here, I'm going to make one blank page, and I'm going to find a book here. And this is just a quick review of what we did yesterday. So this should all be things you're familiar with, but people have definitely said, I would love to see that 4 or 5 more times. All right, I'm going to choose electrons in the hydrogen atom because I love it. So when you want to put a new page in, you can either put it below that one or put it right into the chapter, and it will show up there. 3 pages added. Yep, I added a chapter and 2 below. And I specifically did add 2 different types of pages. One that is transcluded, one that is blank, so we can see both. I can navigate by clicking on it or go to contents, see my new page. And I've got this already pre-built. All right, I'm going to start off with a blank page. And I'm going to start the way that I think most people would start, which is editing the name. And then starting with, all good instructors, of course, start writing anything with what? Want to type that in the comments, in the chat? What's the first thing that you always write if you're doing it the recommended way for teaching? Yes, objectives. So I'm going to start off with an objectives. I'm going to go to boxes and scroll down to objectives. This automatically formats a box for you for your learning objectives. If you don't happen to use the word learning objectives in your course and you use some other word like goals, for instance, you can change this. Okay, so it's not set that that text has to be what we say, although learning objectives is pretty universal. But we do want you to use the box, the formatting that we give you, even if you don't use the word learning objectives. Change that. You don't have to change everything else. Be very careful if you try to delete everything, because that will sometimes mess things up. So try to, what I tend to do is add my new text at the end of things to make sure it looks good. And then I delete the stuff I don't want so that way I make sure not to mess up any formatting. Generally in HTML, there's a lot of tags that are behind the scenes doing the magic. So try to just delete things and then rewrite. Try to rewrite and then delete things so you can keep the magic. All right. I'm going to make my learning objectives by copying. Where are we at? There we go. And pasting. And here I wanted to add a little bit more text somewhere above these bullet lists. So you'll see as I move my mouse around on the right-hand side, there's little red boxes that keep popping up that have dashed lines across the page. Does everybody see those?
Yeah.
So those are ways that you should always start a new paragraph. So start your new paragraphs whenever you need to add a paragraph, not by clicking somewhere like you would in Word and just pressing enter. Instead, figure out where you want that new paragraph to go and click the little return red box there. And that adds an area there inside of it. This is important because sometimes paragraphs come along with some other metadata behind the scenes. And what you want to do is you want to add that paragraph exactly where you want it and not carrying any information from somewhere else. So this is important for that attribution thing we talked about. If that paragraph was written by someone else and you just put your cursor in it and press enter, then the new paragraph you're going to write still looks like it's written by that other person. But if you put the red box in there, it'll always make a new paragraph that's stripped of everything and it's ready to go with your text. So perfect. And it allows you to have control over where you're going to start your new paragraph, right? There's no cursor down here for me to start writing, but there is a red line. So if I click that red line, I can start my new paragraph. Okay. So far, so good. All right. And I'm going to make a few links here because I think it's useful to try all three of them, and they are in the demo in the slideshow. I want to link within my book and externally, as well as show the text. Okay, so I'm going to do all these links here. I want to link within my book. So I'm going to highlight that, click on the link. And I can browse. It automatically does not open everything, but if you click on the plus sign next to that, again, it'll reopen with everything. So I could go to the first chapter and I could go to my other demo page. And you always have the options of doing this open a new window or default. General rule I'm going to show you is just use default for anything that's within the same library or within LibreTexts library. I tend to like to do open a new window only when you're directing people to an external site. That's a normal standard website type of rule. A lot of websites you'll go to, if you click on a link that goes to another page within that website, it'll just refresh that same page, right? So you have a history, back, forward, forward. But if it opens you to a new website that's not theirs, they tend to open it in a new window. That's not a hard and fast rule, but that's just kind of how the web has organically evolved to be a natural behavior. So I'm going to keep that one there. You can always see that link is now there, and you can edit that link here, or you can remove the link by clicking the unlink. So for externally, I'm going to click that link. It automatically links to its, I think, to itself. You can search for it. So I'm going to search. I'm actually going to add a link to the construction guide. So this is still within LibreTexts, even though it's external from this book. So I'm going to keep it as default within the library. Okay. I should say outside this book, as well as show the text. So this is a case where you really want, maybe you're going to print this book. And when you print the book, you want people to be able to see that URL. You can either make a link, a reference down below that says, hey, click this link, that's okay, or put the URL down below. I do have unpublished work from my research group that analyzed LibreTexts and links that are in text that tested whether or not students were using those links. And the pedagogy behind this, in case you happen to want to know, if you tell a student to click on something, they will click on it. If you just put a link there, they will not click on it. So as weird as it sounds to explicitly say, please click on this link. Oh, are we not recording this one? Jennifer, did we're recording. Yep. So if you do want a student to click on a link for a reason, then tell them that reason and then tell them to click on it. So that's just some pedagogical insight for you. It might be useful to have those links there. If I click on the link and I have highlighted something that LibreTexts recognizes as a link, it will actually just put the link there for you too, so you don't have to do much. And I tend to do, again, this is outside of the library itself. It's going to another site. I would assume that they would want that to be open in a new window. Okay, so those are just some bits about how to build things with a link. And now I'm going to do exactly like the slideshow does and put an image in that's wrong. So if you're watching this recording, what I'm doing right now is not the right way to do it, but it will show you how the right way should be done. The wrong way to do it would be to just click on that image button and go find an image. So I'm going to go to our page here, and I'm going to just right-click this image, and I'm going to copy that image address, and then I'm going to stick it in here. You'll notice that no image pops up that's a little picture of it. When I go to options, it still doesn't have an image. And if I try to save this image, it's still, it might not work. It did work that time, but I'm going to tell you why. If you have trouble seeing it, it's because this is actually an image that is behind a paywall, right? So this is not a public page. So be very careful when you're thinking about getting images, where they're coming from. If you try to use an image that works on your computer, and maybe you send it to us and we say, hey, your images are gone, there's nothing there, you might have tried using it from a page that is private. So make sure you're at a URL that you're not logged into, and that you can access publicly before you try to use that. Or you can always drag this to your computer's desktop, get a copy on your computer, and then upload it like normal. So that's another way to do that. Keep editing. I don't have any options right now. I'm going to save this image. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to re-click the image button to get all of these options for whether you want it small, medium, large, original. Tend to leave it responsive. Responsive means that it will adjust the size of the image, whether a student is on a phone, an iPad, or a computer screen. So responsive will take care of that for you. If you dictate what size it should be, then it will look like that on all screens and may make the page look quite bad. So unless you have a really good reason to not make it responsive, leave it as responsive. You can do alignment, but I would say generally on the LibreTexts, you shouldn't worry about anything. And we can go ahead. It says undefined at the beginning. I'm going to change this to something for now. Okay, and that is how to do a bad image. I'm going to do a good one now. And that will be using an image box. So I'm going to use a template here. So like I said in that review, there's a bunch of pre-built things. So don't think about it just adding an image. You're going to be adding a figure. So you really want to go to our templates. And this might take a minute to load the first time you do it, because there are a lot of templates. Once you see that first one, which is cross to include, you can scroll down and see all the different boxes that we have. And there are a bunch of figures. So you can add a single figure. I'm going to zoom in. Add a figure single. Add a figure with multiple captions. Add multi-figures with multi-captions. Add multi-figure with a single caption. Those are the two that I think are used the most often are single figure with single caption or multi-figure with a single caption. I'm going to do the single figure, single caption. This automatically comes with a template of what you should put for every figure. The caption, the copyright, the author, and the source. And it comes with a placeholder. You'll notice that we tend to do in LibreTexts, give you something that already has a placeholder text or a placeholder image, so you know where things should go. And then you replace those things. And I tend to replace things not by deleting and then adding. I tend to add and then delete. So I'm going to go to the Academy homepage, or actually to LibreTexts homepage. And I'm going to take this image, copy image address. That's a public page now, so we're pretty good there. Now I can use the image button here to insert just the image inside of the box. Again, I can't change any of these things yet because I have to save it. Now I can click on it and open that to edit its properties. And if you were to attach a file by uploading it from your computer, you can do that here and then go straight to the options. And I'm leaving it responsive. I'm not touching anything in the alignment. I'll show you why. And my example, by the way, has a full nice alt text written on the one, but for the sake of expediting things, I'm going to type it here. Now that I have this, I will go and delete that one. You'll see some magic here. There's the word figure, and then there's this long, interesting bit of code. The bit of code is this backslash and then a parentheses wrapped with this one on the other end. This basically is our delimiter for, hey, computer, please interpret what's inside this. Okay, so that's where we can put something that the computer is going to use as basically a variable, a code, some magic that will happen inside of this. I would say the preference would be to download it and then upload it would be the best. We can scrape things and then make sure that they do stay live when we publish it. But like if you hyperlink to Wikipedia, they will cut off your access after a couple days. So I would say definitely go ahead and use download and upload if you can. I'm just doing this to show you where to get some different files. So there's some magic that goes on inside of there. And this is how you'd actually put LaTeX for equations in line. If you wanted to use LaTeX to put some equations or variable or like make a little math or chemistry equations will get put in that way. And I'll show some examples of that. But the one you're going to see the most often is this page index command. And the page index will just number things for you. So I'm just going to put in a number that's not one here so that you can follow it along. And that way you can see where that goes. And I am going to save this so we can see what we've done so far. All right. So we have our new text here that I typed. Remember, it said learning objectives before, but I changed the title. I added this little decorative thing here, which again, LibreTexts adds these things by default so that it matches everywhere that an objective is done. We'll have the same thing. And it made all of our links. Put the image centered. Remember, I told you, don't worry about justification and where things should go. It'll happen automatically because it's inside of a box that we've already created for it. So all pages for all books look the same. And then you'll see down at the bottom that since this is page 2.1, this is figure 2.1.5. So the thing you control is making sure that your captions increase in number each time. So figure 1, then figure 2, then figure 3, then figure 4. That does have to be done by you, but the 2.1 part, that's done automatically. And the reason is your page might get used in someone else's chapter 5, right? So if you want to be able to remix content from one book to another book, then we need to have some automated way to number figures, not one that's hard-coded. So never write that this is figure 5 because you just like to call it figure 5. You don't like all those 2.1 point whatevers. Please don't do that, because if we all use the same way of numbering, then we can all remix our books from anyone else's book, and it will all be the same. All right. So far, so good. Questions on those?
Yeah, excuse me. I have a question. What if you have a already image that is inserted without using the template, like just insert the image, and my book has a line on the left. I want to center. This is the nice way to do it, but I didn't do that way before. So is there any way I can use the template? I put the image in the pages. Can I just
we may have done something similar to that to clean up a book before. We do have a number of bots that we can go through your book and fix things.
Oh,
I don't that Delmar, have we done that kind of thing before where we apply templates to all images if they don't have them?
Oh yeah, we have an existing bot in order to do
That's
that.
what I thought we did. Yeah.
So
oh, really?
if you put an image on it and then you write down below figure something something, we have a bot that will assume that your reference to that figure is meant to be a caption, and then it ties it together into one big figure block, so that again, it's not just a style issue, it's also an accessibility issue because it's structured in a way that screen
Oh,
readers are able to recognize this as a caption, not text that's uncoupled to the image.
I see.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just contact us and we're happy in order to look at. As long as it's structured, what you've done is consistent across multiple pages, we can do lots of magic with our bots.
We have a lot.
Okay.
And I was going to say the answer to the other text comment is if you did hyperlink like I did from LibreTexts website, make an image that's just based on the URL, before your book gets published, we do go through and get rid of all of those and actually pull those images into our database so they're on our servers. So we don't like to have them external, but we will fix that with our bots as well. I think we do that for every book anyway, right, Delmar?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, we run some standardized bots across the things, but the aggressive ones require a bit more finesse depending upon what people want.
Aaron, hopefully you can see all the template. You might not have every single template because there are some that we don't really use anymore, but since my admin account has access to a bunch of things, that might be why you don't see some of the ones that I do. Hopefully the image ones and the video ones.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Excellent. So I'm going to keep going. Oh, wait.
Just a
Francis,
quick
good
question. If I'm copying and pasting from Google Docs, should I delete the formatting in the way that you showed if I'm copying from a website so that I can then, instead of hitting enter from the text, I'm using the red button to enter or to
If the
add a
page is-
paragraph?
If the page is all yours and you've written or copied and pasted into it all yours, then you don't need to worry too much about that little red box. It's more if you have some text that's transcluded and some that's not. That's where that really becomes an issue because you want to make sure that you're not accidentally attributing your stuff to somebody else. But typically it's not a big deal. I would probably do the remove formatting button if you have like chunks of text that maybe don't look right. Then go ahead and do that because it might, when you copy and paste it, sometimes in some ways you might get different fonts where they're like, hey, this is actually in Courier, and you're like, okay, if you keep everything default, then your book will look a lot better when we make a PDF of it, when we make a book of it.
Okay, thanks.
I also did want to point out that HTML button here. I've had a couple people in the past try to delete everything on a page, and it doesn't actually, it looks like it's all deleted, but it's not. If you really want to make sure your page goes back to being completely blank, I would go to the HTML and just delete everything in that box, because then you know there's nothing hidden inside of there. Sometimes we do have magic code in the background, and I'm going to show you one of those magic codes right now. I'm going to put a paragraph underneath my caption, so make sure my little red box is below my gray box. Push that button, get my new one, and I'm going to do the most simple interactive thing you can do in LibreTexts. Interactive. And I'm going to use, instead of the elements, I'm going to go over here to boxes like we did for objectives, and I'm going to do an exercise. Again, we get that page index with the fancy little curly cues, and we have our text here, and I can put my little red arrow to make sure I'm putting text where I want it to go. Again, I tend to just write my sample problem. Okay, and then I will delete the other text. And I'm going to do a little bit of math here. And then I'll delete the other text. And we'll save this. Scroll down. This is our exercise. It got added a nice little cute decorative question mark. And it has a hyperlink that is the answer. You click on that and it shows that, oh, of course, I made a typo on purpose, right? This is a curly Q on accident, which is something totally you would do as well. And then I did this for you. Parentheses. There we go. So this gets rendered as an equation with LaTeX, and that is how you should put equations, if possible, into your page, because they are much more uniformly screen readable for students if they are done in LaTeX that way. And you can do chemical equations there. We do some, if you're a chemist, it supports the CE tag for LaTeX to do reaction mechanism reactions and things like that. And you can use a lot of different tools. If you have a Mac, I tend to like to use the program that's free called LaTeX. I will put a link to that. And I find it really nice and easy to use on my desktop to get it. But there's a bunch of free ones. And I think Josh recommended one a few days ago in the chat. What one's it called? Delmar, you use a PC. Which one do you use when you do your LaTeX editing?
I don't.
There's a math something.
Well, there's MathPix that will OCR a text-based thing, which is really quite powerful to grab from.
Yeah, that's one he recommended. So this
yeah.
one can actually do some conversions for you if you happen to have an image that is in math formatting, and then it will try to generate the LaTeX for you.
Right. I mean, that's what we use when we bring in, for example, OpenStax books, because they don't store their images as LaTeX. They store them in what's called MathML, which is an atrociously difficult thing in order to edit. And we convert it over into something reasonable so that end users like us can actually manipulate as necessary.
Yep. So that's MathPix for those of you who want to use that. And that can be used by Mac people as well. Any quick questions on those? So this is the most simple, easy to use, interactive stuff that you'd like to do. Yes, there's a lot of generative AI that can do LaTeX quite well, as Bob mentioned as well. So
How does that answer look when the book is printed?
It'll print out as if it's open already. And if you want to see how to look, even when you have not built your book yet, you can still access a PDF of just the page. I think, oh, it's not public yet, so it does have to be printed. I thought you could do it for a private book, for a page-based one. But I might be wrong on that one. But if your book is currently published, you can see at least what the current page is at all times. And that should work out pretty well. Kelsey, you have a printed book? They're pretty nice.
Yeah, I got roasted by my students though, because the videos that we put in there, they obviously just, have the video frame with like the triangle, and so they'll be like pressing the book and making fun of it, but we put QR codes in there so that they can, like scan it and watch it. But that was the only hang up, really.
Yeah, and definitely if you do put a video in there, do keep in mind that maybe in the caption for that video, which I actually just think videos are moving figures, so I just call them figures. Oops, I need to go to the other elements templates. There is a lag here, takes a few seconds. Add a figure. There is a box for embedding a video too.
That's actually explicitly on the editor.
Yep. That one's, which one's that on the boxes?
Elements, I believe. It's right.
Oh yeah, that's the one I just did. So that, and the elements, and then the box. So this is where you can put a video. And I would say you can replace that again, add another one, and then add your own video, and then add your own caption or text. I tend to like to make sure that you tell students, again, same thing again, tell them why they're going to watch that video and what to look out for or what they should gather from it. That's really helpful in general, but it's also really helpful in print if people can't get to the video or actually reading it on a piece of paper without any distractions. But do make sure that you put that URL somewhere. I like to put the URL so that people can actually, if they're on a computer or a QR code, then you can have students that are using the print or PDF version access it there. Putting the videos in video boxes is good, because if in the future we come up with a really great way to replace videos with a QR code automatically, which I know is in our queue of things we want to do, if they're in a video box already, then we know that'll be a really easy search and find and replace and clean up for you. So if you use our boxes in general, then any new features that we roll out, you'll be the first to get the upgraded, nicer version of that because you use the template that lets us easily find, replace, and clean up things. Great, and I'm actually going to add a video here. I'm gonna go to videos just so you can see them. The most recent videos that were uploaded are the ones from yesterday. Copy that URL at the top. I am going to, you can edit the video that's already there. Stick in the new URL, and then you can see, yep, that's the one that I wanted. It updates it. And then you can add your text before or after. And then when you save it, you do get the video in the nice little template centered and looks nice. So I'm going to go through real quick when I go to the edit button and just kind of walk through a couple of the other boxes. We do have things like definitions. If you want to put emphasis on something, I want to go down. Like I know there's a couple of people working on labs. If you wanted to make a warning at below your objectives for your lab, you can put in a warning, which is a red box with the red lighting. It says caution. Of course, if you have a preferred text, you can always add it, but I would prefer if you typed it and then deleted the other stuff so you don't mess up any of the formatting. And you can make sure to add that little red arrow there if you want to add a paragraph to it, or the red arrow below it if you need to add a paragraph below it, or outside the box if you see this little red thing jump to inside the box, outside the box, inside the box. So you can make sure that you're adding things and making sure you're avoiding messing up any templating or formatting. Okay. And because I know we're going to talk about this afternoon, but I just want to get you excited about it. If you have an assignment in Adapt and you're thinking, maybe I want to try those interactive formative things, that might be okay thing to do, but it might sound really hard. I'm going to use this little copy icon to copy this question from this assignment. I'm going to add my little red box to add a new line. I'm going to go up and click on this little adapt icon, which is our circle, and it says insert adapt. And I'm just going to paste that adapt ID and save it. That's as difficult as it is to add an interactive question from your adapt library assignment into your book. Literally nothing more than just copy and paste that ID. And we even built the copy button, so you don't even have to do that. Okay. All right. Well, that was a lot of beginner stuff I wanted to walk through, but I think it gives you an idea of the basics of how these things engage together and how you can build things quite quickly. And we have some time for questions, Chapon. We could probably stop recording whenever we wanted to as well.